How would you feel about a law that requires anyone under the age of 25 to pass a specialized test in order to have children? Well-intentioned, but unenforceable. Because even if you punish the people who break the law, what do you do with the kids? Sticking it to their parents doesn't make their lives easier, which seems to be the point of the law in the first place. Child Soldier Program. Instead of a specialized test, I'd rather have mandatory education on child development and unencumbered sex ed for everyone. And maybe once you're pregnant there's a refresher course. Ignorance a lot easier to fight than biology. Or just have free courses for soon-to-be parents, and in school learn about parenting, like for real. Parent here. Hospitals offer tons of free classes on every single aspect of childcare. My wife and I took all of them, and they were a huge help. Not only did we learn a ton, but it really helped build our confidence up as parents. Unfortunately, each class consisted of only about 3 or 4 couples. Instead of a required to test to have a child, we should offer tax incentives to those that take parenting classes. It would mostly accomplish the same goal, and it would be voluntary and easily enforceable. Problem is that the people who OP is likely talking about don't have a tax burden big enough for these incentives to even matter. Basically, they don't make enough money to care about a tax break. Make it a refundable tax credit then. Pay them for having kids? That's a bad idea if I've ever seen one. One-time thing, no sense in giving incentives to take classes more than once. Hell, have some kind of fairly easy evaluation at the end that getting the credit requires passing. People that are going to have kids are going to have kids, might as well ensure they have some idea of what they're doing. Not good. Who decides on the regulations on having a child? Stupid people can be caring, smart people can be cunts, so there isn't really any way to enforce it. Who would decide on the contents of the test, and would it be set in stone, or could it be changed according to the prevailing political and scientific opinions of the day? If a political party takes power, can it change the conditions? On what basis? It's obviously a complete non-starter. Imagine the millions of court cases that would arise as soon as the merest condition of that test was changed. Imagine the forced abortions from failed contraceptives. Imagine the financial and moral weight it would place upon the state, and how rapidly protest would grow as soon as the first person with one child was suddenly prohibited from having a second. This is a subject that comes up all the time, for some bizarre reason. It is what it always has been, i.e. a ridiculous fantasy. Edit, whoa, thanks for the gold. Also, damn, that's a lot of replies. I'll get to as many as I can. Because a load of people love the idea that stupid people, where stupid is people who disagree with their beliefs, shouldn't have kids and pass on their stupidity, in the forms of values, usually, and that way the good people, i.e. the people advocating for the policy, will win out. Ironically often proposed by people who also bitch about their parents' political views. Excellent point. I feel like the government would be overstepping its bounds. I can't believe how many people in this thread are down with the government telling them whether or no they can procreate. Someone mentioned an opt-out birth control program? WTF? What happened to us deciding what to do with our own bodies and the feds staying the hell out of it? This is some communist hoopla right here. Well, you're on Reddit, so insert guy with his hands up in a what can you do fashion. Edit, I just copy-pasted it and I'm on mobile. Hey man, you dropped this, you want to use 3. I don't see how this could be an unbiased and fair test. Unlike a test you take for a class, or for a driving exam, a test to have a child would have only subjective questions and answers. When you do that, it will favor anyone with morals and a similar life to the test makers and graders. This will be discriminatory against large groups of people who are not similar. Morals are not universal. Neither are parenting techniques. And it's not like someone couldn't lie to pass it either, so it's almost completely pointless anyways. I don't trust a government agency to come up with an effective test for anything. I think the premise, that people under 25 make worse parents, is a flawed one. Shitty parenting is more personality than age. I've seen good and bad parents of all ages. Don't you know, once you turn 25 you become an amazing responsible adult, fully trained and experienced in all parenting techniques. It was all in my Welcome to Adulthood kit. Didn't you get your kit? Not only no, but hell no. There's too much there that can be abused. Sounds like unchecked fascism run amok. Reddit, talking about bashing Nazis one day, upvoting eugenics for people they dislike the next. Maybe just ensure that everybody has the means to achieve an acceptable living standard in relation to their familial situation. Also access to healthcare, including sexual health and education. That sounds like tyranny. You can't force people to not do something like that. Giving the government so much power is a very bad idea. I'd rather mandatory driving tests for the over 70s. Yeah. I think this is a misguided response to that question too. Our senses naturally decline when we get older, which makes it harder to drive, so there's a case to be made for that. There's nothing that shows that people over 25 make better parents. The only real benefit of having kids at a later age is that you'll probably be more financially stable, but that's not even always true. I would be one of the first people to join the revolt caused by this law. Maybe we could put more effort into raising children to be more mature instead of trying to take away basic human rights. Terrible idea. This reeks of eugenics and promotes the idea that some human beings have more intrinsic value than others, and that some human beings don't even deserve to be born. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with having a child at a younger age, not enough to legislate against it, anyway. Giving the government the power to control minority populations has never ended badly before. I think it would be a wonderful idea. That is insane. Sounds like something out of 1984. Like my decade of service defending liberty went out the ducking window. How could you possibly enforce this other than by arresting pregnant people for being pregnant? Being unenforceable is missing the point. It's a blatant disregard for natural human rights. What happens if they don't pass the test and have a kid anyway? Take the kid away? How progressive. Who gets to decide the criteria of the test? What happens when the criteria discriminate against people of certain classes, races, or disabilities? Abuse can transcend all of that. How do you keep them from having kids? Forced sterilization? Remember when black people had to take a test in order to vote back in the era of Jim Crow laws? It wasn't cool then, and it wouldn't be cool now. I don't agree with it. Despite the ethical issues, who makes the test? Who determines what makes someone a good parent? I'm an adoptive parent and had to pass a test to be approved to adopt. There are plenty of adoptive parents who are approved to adopt and still end up abusing or damaging their children. It isn't the perfect solution and gives the government way too much control. The fact people even consider this is really scary. Even the people going, yeah, but it won't work as intended. What do you mean, yeah? Very frightening how people will give the government so much control, even over their own body. If you are trying to find a solution to young people don't normally make the best parents statistically, making it illegal to have kids without passing a test is right up there with one of the worst solutions you can come up with. That would be a law as stupid as it can get. Just like teaching abstinence, and similar idiocies. How would one enforce that? Mandatory chastity belts until the age of 25 or test passed, or forced abortion for any trespassers? Political ideas like that are the ones that duck up society. Like, for example, laws that demand that adult websites can only go online after 10 p.m. How does being over or under 25 affect anything? Ops seems to still be under the illusion that as you age you automatically gain wisdom. It's all nonsense, friend. What qualifies someone to be a parent? Who makes the test questions and what would the questions even be? The content of those could be incredibly telling about the person asking them, and could be agenda-driven. I think successful parenting is getting that kid filled with reasonable ideas, useful knowledge and keeping it alive and healthy. However, maybe someone else would want to use the kid as some kind of statement piece to project their own inner agendas, who's right and who has the right. Not something a governing body should be deciding. So being a good parent is pretty subjective, especially depending on your specific context. Sounds a lot like eugenics. I've met some teenagers that were better parents to their children and worked harder for their children than people in their 30s. What a garbage post this is. This is a horrible idea and against my belief in nearly unlimited freedom. Just don't infringe on others. This is the epitome of smug status centile planning elites. I would probably yell and curse you out of my face if you thought this was really a law that should exist.